Well, I was thinking we would have a 30-second countdown.
Yeah, what happened to our countdown, Ted?
I guess I didn't pay the 30-second countdown bill this month. You're watching the DMZ America Podcast with me, Ted Rall, editorial cartoonist, coming to you from the left.
And I am editorial cartoonist Scott Stantis, coming to you from the right.
And which is where we like you to come from, Scott. So, all right. So today is July 7th, 2025, Monday. Thanks everyone for joining us. Please like, follow, and share the show. Much appreciated that you're here. We're very happy to have you. All right. And today we're going to be talking about the history of third parties. We're also going to be talking about that in the context of Elon Musk's announcement that he's going to be forming a third party called the America Party. We're going to talk about the floods in Texas and cruelty. Is cruelty something that is more prevalent than it has been in the past in our society and in our politics? And if so, I think you know where we're going with this. Is it something we can come back from? That was Scott's question when we were preparing for the show. All right, Scott, let's get into it. So Elon Musk was angry about the One Beautiful Bill Act of 2025, the most awkwardly named piece of legislation, perhaps in U.S. history, and he doesn't like all the deficit spending, so he proposed that if this bill passed, that he form a new America Party that would be for the moderate, mushy middle, the centrists, the reasonable Americans. These are all the things that he said, and he put out a poll on X. 2 out of 3 respondents said that they were in favor of this.
Of course.
He says he's moving ahead with it. So obviously this brings up a lot of questions. Donald Trump said third parties never work, and this is rich. All they ever do is cause chaos and disruption. Which I was like, isn't that your bag, Donald? Chaos and disruption.
That came in second for his campaign slogan. This is behind "Let's Make America Great Again." Ted, you and I are giggling, and there's a reason why. Because we know history. We actually, know something that happened more than 2 weeks ago. Third parties Trump's not wrong. The third parties don't work out great for the third parties generally. The last third party to be successful and have some legs and some standing is the Republican Party when it ran its first candidate in 1856. Ted, quick trivia question. Who was the candidate, the presidential candidate for the Republicans?
Not James Buchanan, right? That was the...
no, he was the Democrat.
This would have been...
the worst president ever.
Yes, that's true. Oh my God, it's driving me nuts. I have the token.
I can see him. He's from California. Not Ronald Reagan.
Fill me in. You're going to say it, and I'm going to be like, oh yeah, of course.
Oh, I'm having not Freeman.
Oh well.
Not Freeman.
It'll come. We'll figure it out. No, it's not Lincoln. Ray.
No, I said free. Free starts with an F. Oh my God, Ted! What the hell's wrong with us? Be older, Scott and Ted. Be older.
Anyway, moving along.
Fremont.
That's right. I assume Fremont, California, is named after him. Maybe
it is. He actually designed. I'm not sure if you've ever seen it. The California Republic flag.
Oh, that's impressive with the bear.
Well, if you see the flag, it's not so impressive. The bear looks more like he took feces on a stick and just kind of went.
Yeah, it's still pretty cool. It's a pretty iconic flag.
It's a great flag. Is it a great flag because I grew up under it? I always wonder this because I'm a native Californian. Or is it really a great flag? It breaks all the rules. It's hard to draw. It has words. It's it says California Republic on it.
Yeah.
But the bear is kind of he's
the
always
star is cool.
Star is cool. The red star. I knew you'd like that. But okay, so that's the last successful third party that ever launched in the United States.
Well, wait. We have to define. First of all, okay, let's go backwards. The Democratic Party was basically founded by Andrew Jackson in 1824. Yeah, was that considered
that was a natural progression
before?
From the Democratic Republicans formed, that Madison, Monroe, and Jefferson formed. I think it was a kind of a natural progression. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's just disagreeing with you. But
okay, all right. But no, I'm asking. So
yeah, so the Democratic Party came from the Democratic Republicans, or from, like I said, Thomas Jefferson, and then Madison, and then Monroe, the whole Virginia cabal that ran the United States for the better part of 20 years. The Federalists didn't really have a name. They kind of they were called that by their enemies, but they were,
they were not really a political party the way we know them today.
Let us take it all the way back to the Constitution, to George Washington, who wailed against the evils of political party and having separate entities, that there should not be political parties. Yes, there should not be political parties. And so, initially,
and our Constitution was set up that way, right? So originally, in the first and second presidential elections, whoever won the highest number of electoral votes was the president. Number two, whoever came in second became vice president. That's obviously the party system as we know it originates really with Jefferson in 1800 in the third election, although it still has a long way to go. Basically, it's been a two-party system ever since, basically. And then major disruptions, I would say, are, correct me if I'm wrong, 1860, like you pointed out, the rise of the Republican Party, that had come from nowhere in just 4 years. Lincoln wins in a four-way race, right, between him, Douglas, John Bell, and John C. Breckinridge, my favorite.
Right, Northern Democrats, Southern Democrats, and Constitution. Bell was with the Constitution Party. And
the only true four-way race in American presidential history. And then we start getting into some interesting third-party votes there's the Populist Party in 1892. James Weaver didn't really go anywhere, but he's the Prohibition Party played a role in the election
perennial
starting in 1888 or so.
And can we take a side note on this? Because Ted and I are kind of mesmerized by the Prohibition Party, because you would think this would be a bunch of pent up, horrible,
stick up the ass Puritans.
Yes. And they were
don't have fun, don't drink.
Yeah, but they were anything but. Every other part of their platform was like abolition, free love,
women's
liberalizing
suffrage,
divorce, women's suffrage. I mean, it was just,
they were the
shocking.
Big left-wing party of their time.
Right.
And being for temperance was also a left-wing cause, because
isn't that odd?
Because basically alcohol was viewed, it's kind of analogous to when I was a punk rocker in the early 80s. We viewed drugs as basically a tool of the capitalist class to oppress the poor and the young, to keep them stupid and prevent them from rebelling against the system. The left.
You think that's still true?
I do think it's true. I think it's truer now that it's legal.
Yeah, I think the rush to legalize weed is.
You don't think we'd have a revolution by now if not for that? In the 19th century, the left believed that alcohol, demon rum, was being used to keep the working man stupid and dumb and poor. And basically, there was also just the quality of life thing, right? Like factory workers would kick off work, go to the bar, get drunk, get into a fight, come home broke, and have to tell their wives that, like, oh, sorry, it's another 2 weeks without any money. That was bad. And their wives would get upset and they'd beat their wives. So
in the alcoholism rate in the country, they estimate, because it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 22%.
That's crazy.
It was really high. Well, what else did you have to do? I mean, I can go home and get dysentery, or I can go to the bar. That was really the choice.
Right.
But the Temperance Party hung around, and the Temperance Party, again, people laugh at it and may think it's silly, but we had
the Prohibition Party.
So the Temperance Party did over time.
Prohibition Party, not the Temperance Party. It was never called the Temperance Party. It was always called the Prohibition Party. For sure.
That was Temperance Party.
There was the Temperance Movement.
Okay.
But
then the Prohibition Party,
like Carrie Nation and all those people.
Well, she was crazy. She was cray.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. She really was like, dressed in all in black.
Or she was just a badass. It depends on your perspective.
Yeah, that's true.
Someone should make a movie.
So Temperance Party,
Prohibition Party.
Okay, Prohibition Party. You also had the Socialist Party. But you also,
which really emerged in a real way in 1904 with the first candidacy of Eugene Debs
who was a charismatic intellectual, for those of you raised in this political environment of politicians, an intellectual is someone who can think above the fifth grade level. There he is. Hey, Gene. He was thrown in prison. And I think, was that the 24 election or 28 where he ran?
1920. He was dead by 1925, I think.
Oh, okay. So the 1920, he ran as in one of the great campaign buttons of all time. Vote for convict number, and they had his prison number.
Yeah, it's a very collectible pin, as you could imagine. And he ran, I guess, 4 times, right? 1904, 1908, 1912, I believe.
He skipped one. He skipped 16.
He skipped 16. That's correct.
Because he was running for governor or for Congress.
I think his biggest turnout was, I don't know what he was doing in 16, but I think his biggest turnout was in like maybe 1912, I think, or 08. But
okay,
and
so
then
we're moving into the 20th century with the Bull Moose Party.
That's a huge moment in third party history.
Teddy Roosevelt, for those of you unaware, Teddy Roosevelt said he would not run for another term for reasons unknown.
Yeah, for people who don't know as much history, Theodore Roosevelt became president in 1901, shortly after the inauguration of McKinley for his second term. He was shot and killed by an assassin. Vice President Roosevelt ascended, was reelected by a landslide in 1904, had a very successful 2 terms in office as the head of the progressive movement as we know it, and then retired in 1909, handed off things to Taft, his mentor, and basically was like, okay, I'm leaving you in good hands to pursue my policies. Roosevelt wasn't pleased with Taft. He felt that he had betrayed progressive principles and had become corporatist. But that's how he felt. And
in fact, Taft was more of a progressive than Teddy Roosevelt. But please go on.
But anyway, this could be just one of the great misunderstandings of history, right? I mean, it wouldn't be the first or last time. And anyway, so he decided, fuck my old mentor, my mentee, my protege, and I'm running. He ran in 1912. It was a spite vote. Right, it was a spite candidacy. He didn't really care if he won, but he really didn't want Taft to win, and so he split the Republican vote, handing the election to Woodrow Wilson, the Democrat, who then went on to become president in 1913. Right, that's important.
Yes, in 1912, also the Republicans. I mean, Roosevelt pushed hard to get the Republican nomination, and Taft beat him, and that's when Roosevelt and his ilk marched out of the convention and said, we are now going to form our own party. And they did. And the result was we got Woodrow Wilson, what I've considered one of the worst presidents we've ever had. So third parties can also fuck things up in a bad way. The Progressive Party continued to survive, I believe. Who was Roosevelt's running mate? It was Johnson, a former governor of California, ran 4 years after that on the progressive ticket, didn't do well. And then in 1924, Robert La Follette, the Fighting Bob, the progressive governor of Wisconsin, runs and gets, I think he may be the last third party candidate to win electoral votes.
I think that's right. But he did get 7% of the vote because Coolidge defeated Davis so handily, it didn't matter. But the thing is, today, 7% of the vote would certainly be determinative in an election.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Could you imagine? Especially Wisconsin, which is a battleground state. So we're moving forward into the 1930s. The economy, capitalism is tits up. We've got so you have a socialist running, you have communists running with Gus Hall.
Well, don't forget, before we get to Gus Hall, don't forget another progressive, Henry Wallace, runs in 1948.
We're still in the 1930s. Henry Wallace ran with FDR for his third term.
Yep, 1940.
1940 and then wrote the Guru Letters. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. It's not, which was actually just a guy, and they're actually rather intelligent, searching for spirituality kind of letters, but they made him sound kind of goofy. He gets dumped in 44 for Harry Truman, and then FDR dies. Now let's get to 1948. That gets real interesting once again. It's a four-way race. It's Truman, the Democratic nominee. You've got Dewey, who's renominated. He was nominated in 1940 and lost to, 44 and lost to FDR. Now in 1948, Thomas Dewey, the former Attorney General and Governor of New York, is running the Republican nominee. Everyone says he's going to win. I would have been one of those guys. I said, it's a shoo-in. There's no way he's going to lose.
On paper, even with the benefit of hindsight, he probably should have won.
Well, so Harry Truman's running as a Democrat, but during the convention, Hubert Humphrey, little known mayor of Minneapolis, gives a barn-burning speech against segregation. Well, the Southern delegation of the Democratic Party can't stand for that. They march out and form the Dixiecrat Party, nominate Strom Thurmond.
Although that wasn't their official name, right? They were officially like the States' Rights Party.
Yeah, I believe so. But they were called Dixiecrats. Additionally, the Henry Wallace, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, said, Harry's this conservative from friggin' Missouri, for Christ's sake. We're going to nominate former Vice President Henry Wallace for president. So it literally is a four-way race. You look at it, the Democratic Party has fractured. There's no way they can win, Ted. There's no way. Wah, wah. Harry Truman does the whistle stop thing, works his ass off and wins the election, shockingly.
Certainly wasn't with a smart foreign policy, but we can get into that.
You and I disagree on that a lot, and we
do. I think Truman is one of the biggest dinguses to ever hold elected office in the United States. But
he could be, and there's some elements of him when he was writing his biography after he left office. He's still like, in very Trumpian ways, his language. For like he always called the guys at the career diplomats, he called them the striped pants gang. It's like, what are you, 5?
You're wearing stripy pants.
You're wearing stripy pants. So going on to 52, 56, pretty traditional Republican Eisenhower beats
1960 also.
Yeah, but now 64 again. The Republican Party nominates Goldwater, and the Rockefeller wing and the Nixon wing is pissed off, doesn't vote. LBJ wins in a landslide. 1968, LBJ, if nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve.
Which is, of course, similar to what happened last year with Biden.
Well, except Biden went, I like cheese.
Well, and also Biden, at least LBJ did this at the beginning of the primary process.
Not at the beginning of the primary process, but the process had already started rolling, and he came in. LBJ won. People forget this. He actually did beat McCarthy in New Hampshire. He came in first, but McCarthy came like 2 points behind LBJ.
It was too close for comfort.
And LBJ said, okay, I'm screwed.
Whereas Biden literally got his ass kicked in the New Hampshire primary and came in 4th, and nevertheless was like, oh, I'm your man, you love me.
And then shockingly to all of us, where was it? It was Buttigieg, Klobuchar, some others who went,
Klobuchar,
okay, yeah, we're dropping out. And you're just looking going,
and Beto O'Rourke. Yeah.
So now we're in 1968. 68, third parties arise again. You've got Eugene McCarthy does not get the nomination, which he should have and deserved it, but did not run as a third party candidate. The Dixiecrats or America, George Wallace gets nominated, and does he win Alabama?
I don't remember.
Cannot
I think,
win.
I think producer Robbie is saying yeah.
Okay, so you have George Wallace in 68 as I want to say America First Party, but that's not what it was called. American Independent Party.
Yeah, something like that.
So 68, 72, the party's around again, but it nominates a state senator from California named John Schmitz, who had arguably the best campaign button ever, Ted. Have you seen it?
No. And now I want it.
And only because gentlemen and ladies of a certain age will know what this is referring to. When you're out of Schmitz, you're out of gear.
That's great.
Schlitz had a slogan back then: when you're out of Schlitz, you're out of beer. And so he played this dumb, really stupid
what's the gear? What gear are you out of?
Who the hell knows, Ted?
Oh, you're out of gear, like you're not in gear.
I met John Schmitz when he was a state senator working in California. He was a delightful guy. I mean, he was a nut, but he was just he was our nut. He was a just charming guy, but not real presence. 72, McGovern versus Nixon. Now 76, Ford versus Carter. Again, more traditional. You did have others. I was on the Ford Speakers Bureau in Wisconsin and did a lot of events on the University of Wisconsin campus. And yeah. And we had, the communists would show up and they hated each other with a passion because you had the Maoists. Ted, you'll know this. Then you had the Stalinists.
That's how we roll.
You had the communist workers. And then you had the socialists who also had like 17 different flavors of socialism. My favorite line though was that the Stalinists were just pretty much their whole take was Stalin was just a victim of bad press,
Right.
But okay, that was 76. 80 gets interesting. We have another serious third party candidate, John Anderson, congressman from Illinois, runs as a moderate because by gum, that Ronald Reagan was just too darn conservative. That seems quaint now, but so you had Reagan, Carter, Anderson and Reagan have a debate. Jimmy Carter, then the sitting president, is invited as well. Jimmy Carter decides
that time it was the League of Women's Voters who sponsored debates, and that's how God intended. That's how it should be.
I think it was. Yeah, it seems perfect.
It was a better system
compared to the bullshit we have now.
Yeah,
where it's designed. It is now designed, Ted, at this stage to exclude third parties. Period. That's its function. Anyway, so 1980, you have John Anderson, which diminished the vote enough. Reagan wins in a landslide, an electoral landslide, certainly. And so now you go to 84, you go to 88 with Bush versus Dukakis. Not really. Jesse Jackson almost got the Democratic nomination, decided not to run a third-party candidate as a third-party candidate. 92, again, third-party billionaire. Now we're getting into our wheelhouse, into contemporary politics, into what we can look forward to with the America Party, and that is Ross Perot. Can I say something here? Can I say something? Can I talk? Can I talk now? Can I talk? I thought he was annoying as shit. I never understood the appeal, other than he was running against a corporatist Democrat and a young Bill Clinton, and a country club conservative with George H.W. Bush. He gummed things up. He participated in the debates. He ended up with, what was the final number, Ted? 21% of the vote?
19.2.
Okay. So, and then he ran again in 96, didn't he?
He did.
Didn't perform as well, but the Progressive Party stuck around. So in 2000, Buchanan, not James, but the commentator Buchanan Pat Buchanan is the nominee against George W. Bush and Albert Gore.
He was the Tea Party before there was a Tea Party. He was MAGA before there was MAGA.
Yes, and so he was, but it really was a non-entity, I think, in that race. Is that the race? Is that the time when? Help me here, Ted. Ralph Nader ran and took all sorts of shit for how he destroyed America.
Yes, that's right. He ran in 2000. It was the Bush-Gore election. He ran as yes, that's right. He was the standard bearer of the Green Party, and he was. I think it's been pretty widely proven that even in the key state of Florida, he got a lot of votes, more than the 534 key votes that supposedly Bush was ahead by, although that's not true, but that's a whole different topic. If the statewide recount had taken place, Gore was ahead by 15 to 20,000 votes in Florida, but Gore was a moron. His lawyers didn't insist on a statewide recount, and they did the recount exactly the opposite of the way they should have. They asked for recounts in Democrat-controlled counties only. He should have asked for the whole state. Then Bush v. Gore could never have been decided the way it was, and it would have been fair. You just want to count all the votes in the state, but more than that. It's like if you're going to troll for votes, go look in Republican controlled counties, because they're the ones who are going to toss your Democrat votes, right? But he didn't. His people were morons and they committed political suicide. Anyway, the point is, it was proven pretty much that everyone who voted for Nader was not going to vote at all if he hadn't been on the ballot. Right?
And anyone who argues that, all we have to do is look at the last election. Right. 10 million fewer Democrats voted in 2024 than voted in 2020. So it's true. They do not vote. Let's take this up to 2016, where you had a very strong libertarian ticket with Gary Johnson, the former two-term governor of New Mexico, who ran with Bill Weld, the former two-term governor of Massachusetts. Very strong, obviously strong executive experience. They were a good team. They were an attractive team. And on the green side, you had Jill Stein, a physician, and very smart physician, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And frankly, it was, stay with me here, kids. I've spoken about this before. The Hillary Clinton campaign is the one that went after both those candidates, tooth and tongue. Gary Johnson was doing an interview.
But the Hillary campaign went after Jill a lot more.
Went after them both. It was the Hillary campaign that made hay out of Gary Johnson when he was doing the interview. And a reporter was asking, it was like his 15th interview of the day, said, "What about Aleppo?" And Gary Johnson said, "What about it? What is that?" He had a mind fart. He had a brain fart. How many times did Trump and or Hillary fuck up in a single day? This was one screw up, and they blew it way out in the national media.
Yeah, when you challenge the system, Scott, the standards are much higher for you. Of course, it should be the opposite. The people who are in the system and running it, the standard for them ought to be the highest, but it's not, which is why, Howard Dean has a mic malfunction, literally, and suddenly he's a lunatic.
That was not a good moment for him. And don't forget, he also had just come in third.
It was a mic malfunction, though.
What does that mean? What is he have a stutter, Ted?
He literally said, like, in the mic, like, woo, and it came out like, woo! Like the volume was way up. Yeah.
No, he wooed. It doesn't. And he came in third in the Iowa caucus when everyone thought he'd come in first. So he was also, there's that. But in 2016, the Hillary campaign goes after Gary Johnson, gets their minions in the mainstream media to put that in heavy rotation, make him look like an idiot. Because Gary Johnson, why is that important? Gary Johnson was polling at around 15%, which would have meant he would have been on the debate stage. Now, could you imagine a debate stage in 2016 that has Hillary Clinton in all of her charm? You have Donald Trump in all of his charm. And then you have had Gary Johnson and Jill Stein.
Well, it would have offered some choice, which would be nice to have if you pretend to have a democracy. Might be nice to have some choice.
Pshaw. So that brings us all the way up to today. I believe did we miss any of the third parties, Ted?
Well, we probably missed, we did skip over Gus Hall and the Communist Party. There's a bunch of other ones like the Socialist Workers Party.
Oh, they've been around, but aren't really significant.
They were around. They were very active in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
Right.
And there was the Revolutionary Communist Party of Bob Avakian. That's kind of a cult. But hey, you asked to mention them.
No. But I'm saying, how many of them were actually viable? There's
also that guy who ran in, was it 32 or 36? Lenke, like Lehke, ran as an independent. It was called like something like generic, like he was a business person. Like it was like the Independent Party or something like that.
There's always been iterations, but the ones that I just ran through all of these, and I'm sorry to bore people, but I just ran through all these.
I think it's important to understand,
that we've had third parties, but only occasionally have they actually been, I think Ross Perot is the most analogous to what Elon Musk is talking about. He'll put a crap ton of money forward.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Will they have, how many down ticket candidates will they put forward? That's another thing. Would you run as an America Party candidate, Ted?
Well, I mean, there's no policies, right? So
yes, it's America.
I'm all about the policies. So if I can run on my policies, sure. Why not?
These won't be your policies. I guarantee it. These will be centrist, bullshittery, mamby-pamby. Everyone says in poll after poll that they want more centrist candidates, but they don't fucking elect them. They don't get them through the primaries.
They don't want them.
They don't
It's
support them.
bullshit. The truth, look, Scott, it's very clear. There's no center anymore. I mean, look, where's the biggest pools of disenfranchised voters? Donald Trump proved where part of them were. He brought in tens of millions of people on the far right who had never voted before into the Republican Party and used them to do a hostile takeover of the GOP. On the left, Bernie Sanders showed that there are tens of millions of disenfranchised non-voters who will vote for you for the first time, albeit not in enough numbers, especially if it's hard and Hillary Clinton's giving you a hard time. But the point is, they're there. And that's where, if you're just after the voters and the numbers, if that's your purpose, your voters are on the far left and on the far right. They're populists. I think if I was starting, my advice to Elon would be, forget the America Party, rename it the Populist Party, invite all comers left and right, set aside any kind of differences that you have between the left and the right, and agree on stuff that the far left and the far right agree on. For example, the far left has always wanted strong immigration policies because it protects American workers. Far right agrees with that. That's something they can get on board with. The far left and the far right have always agreed on protections for working class salaries, training programs, and stuff like that for workers. Something that they can all agree on. There's definitely space here for the populist left and the populist right to do some shit together. Anti-interventionism overseas, that America doesn't do dumb wars or militarism unless it absolutely has to defend itself. Nothing optional. Like, oh, it's very sad what's happening to the Moldovans, but they're on their own. It's very happy what's happening to the poor people of Eritrea, but that's on them. The far left and the far right agree on this. And so, no interventionism. So there's a lot of, that would be where I'd go.
I agree. I couldn't agree more, Ted. You're absolutely right. I mean, you already have a populist right party in the GOP. So you're not going to, take votes away from there. People say a lot of stuff, the poll on X, for Christ's sake, really, that's what you're basing this on?
Yeah.
So
which, by the way, you would expect better results if you were him. It was 2 out of 3 said yes. I'm like, you own the thing.
You can make the arguments.
Yeah. On Rall.com, I can do more than 2 out of 3.
They're going to roll this out. Clearly, my suspicion is this is designed to be a spoiler for the Republicans.
Yes, this seems like 1912. This is a spite party.
Yeah.
It's like, sorry, Donald Trump, fuck you.
And it's expensive to start a party. Billionaires like to keep most of their money. So
that's
and
true.
Elon Musk, don't forget, Elon Musk cannot run for president because he's not a native American.
So that's what I was going to bring up. This is, I think, a really key part. So I have my ideas of so first of all, there is a structural problem for third parties running for president, right? Which is you have to have half the electoral votes in order to win, right? These days you need 270 to become president. Scott, so let's just say for the sake of argument, hell, I can go nuts. Let's say that you run for president as an independent on the America Party, and you get 260 electoral votes. And then the other 2 parties split the remainder, right? The Democrats and the Republicans. You've won by a landslide. It's a plurality by far and away. You should be president of the United States, but you won't be, because in our system you have to have 270, and it'll go to the House of Representatives, and the House of Representatives, currently controlled by the GOP, after next year probably controlled by the Democrats, is going to vote for their party. And they're not going to care about the will of the people. So basically, a third party can't elect a president, no matter what, really. And so, 99.9% of the time. So so really, it seems to me that the key here is don't run for president, or run for president, but also the main thing is focus on grassroots. Run someone in every county commission job, every city council job, every school board position. 2 out of 3, as you know, Scott, 2 out of 3 elected officials in this country run unopposed in every election.
That's
every
crazy.
election.
That's crazy.
So those people, you find someone to run for those. Elon, you pick up the bill. You pay for the posters, you pay for the petitions, you pay for the ballot challenges, you keep them on the ballot. You'll get some of those people elected. Some of them will get elected, especially if you choose your candidates well. And there are a lot of people who will just vote, as we saw with Mamdani. Nobody knew who Mamdani was. It was a spite vote by New Yorkers. We just didn't want Cuomo and we didn't want Adams, and that was it. So we voted for the Muslim dude. That's what happened. A lot of people will do that all over the country because they're sick and tired of one party rule, either by the D's or by the R's. So you start at the local level and Congress and the Senate, and you can run a president. But if you only run for the president, you're going to fucking lose every fucking time, and you're going to waste billions of dollars. And what's the point?
No, absolutely.
That's the big mistake, right? They all focus on the presidency. Very few third parties, if any, in this country have ever truly been a national party. Has there ever been one?
Well, I would argue that the Libertarian Party works hard to get on the ballots. They certainly do down here. And I know a number of states.
There was no Libertarian candidate for mayor.
Well, see, that's a problem. And you have
it's
to
not like in 8 million people, you should be able to find one, right?
Yeah, you would think. You're absolutely right, Ted. That's the way you build this party. And you build excitement. You know, gee whiz, we have 3 congressmen, you know.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, that's not nothing considering how hard,
especially what's probably coming up. You're absolutely right. But my point is that you do that, you say, okay, they actually have, you know, the Socialist Party has not gone crazy with Bernie, for instance, saying we had a socialist in the U.S. Senate. They did not glom onto that and celebrate that. The Libertarians, if they'd won a congressional seat or won a Senate seat, oh my God, they'd go bananas. You have to have that presence and that consistency. You know, the Republican Party we talked about in 1856. Yeah, they run Fremont, but they also had down ticket. And they damn near took the House. They damn near took the Senate.
By the way, Fremont ran again in 1864.
Against the Republican
against Lincoln and McClellan.
As what?
As a third party, the Free Soil Party.
Okay. Yeah, he was kind of kooky. That was kind of the knock, that he was kind of a kook, and that was kind of kooky.
But also he was kind of a cool dude too. So yeah.
But a great beard. Let's face it.
You know, back then, a lot of them did. And McClellan, holy crap, that's a beard.
McClellan didn't have a beard. No, he had a mustache. He had a mustache and a soul patch.
Yeah, that's a beard.
Okay.
Look at us. Who are we to be beard splaining?
Oh, but did you hear the latest on mustaches now? These wimpy little barely pubescent boy mustaches are a thing now.
No,
I'm not kidding. So I'm just saying, like, you can grow facial. I've seen Ted's beard when he traveled to the Middle East.
We're both capable.
I don't have the mustache. I haven't grown it in a while, but I could definitely have the beard.
I was surprised. I didn't know I had it in me, but yeah.
You do, man. It's manly. And you're like Iman. You're like Ayatollah Ted.
Oh man. I mean, I will say, when I got my beard trimmed in Herat, which is right on the Iranian border, and Afghanistan is very influenced by the countries around it, not just the ones that invade it. And although the Iranians have invaded it, that's not like out of the question. Anyway, they gave me a really beautiful Iranian trimmed beard, and it was, I think it's the best I've ever looked, for sure.
Why don't you have a beard now?
It's itchy and scratchy, man.
Yeah, I know. I don't like the feel, and Janine won't kiss me. So, kissing beard.
Don't do that. No, you can't go kissless.
No, no, kissless existence is no existence at all.
That's true.
Speaking of kissless, so we're talking about cruelty, and I've been thinking about this a lot, Ted, and just how, you look at the messages from this president, the every message is an attack on a perceived enemy. Every, we look at, Doge was looked at as fondly by MAGA people when it was, and the big beautiful bill. There's going to be 10 to 14 million newly uninsured people in the United States. That's a level of cruelty that's kind of hard to imagine. And and I got to take a side note and say, all of you MAGA types who are saying, I didn't think it was going to be May. Fuck you to hell and back. Fuck you. There was a guy who owns a construction company. Now, Ted, stay with me on this. Construction companies, what kind of people do they knowingly or unknowingly tend to hire?
Maybe not those who are born in the United States.
Right.
And
this guy,
or who are certified to work in the United States.
This guy runs this construction company in Pennsylvania, a big construction company, and they raided his company and, expunged a large number of his workers. He can't find anyone to work. And he says, I never thought this would happen. Fuck you. You have no right to complain. None. Zero. Zilch. Shut up and go away. And the same is true of the level of cruelty. And maybe I'm playing into it, Ted. Am I, when I say fuck you to MAGA types?
Well, you are kind of repeating it. Look, I want to put a fine point on it, Scott. I mean,
okay,
when you talk about cruelty, look, there have been cruel policies throughout American history and in recent history. I mean, honestly, Ronald Reagan's budget, for example, kicked millions of college students out of college because they no longer had scholarships. There was the Japanese American internment camps where, not only were people sent to concentration camps, but their property and their businesses were stolen, and they never got them back at the end of World War II. And there was never any reason whatsoever for them to have been interned in the first place. No good logical reason. And there's lots of policies that involve budget cuts, firings. I mean, people, Ronald Reagan fired the air traffic controllers, right? I think, what I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing, having known you for a quarter of a century, or more, is that like what's getting you here is the glee with which it's done. And for example, when Doge was sending out social media postings under Musk and others that are like, we're taking a chainsaw to them, like, fuck them, all these jobs are going to go. And everyone's like, yeah, we're getting rid of the deep state. It's like, okay, so let's just say for the sake of argument that all those jobs needed to be eliminated and that they were all waste. I don't believe that, but let's just say for the sake of argument that they were. You can fire people more in sorrow than in anger. You can say like, I'm really sorry. This is just necessary for the betterment of we have to save our national budget. We have too much debt. We have to pay down our deficit. Like, I could see that. I could also see you could even do it more kindly. Like, hey, we're going to try to reshuffle people, try to find you a job in a part of the government that is hiring. We'll retrain you. If you need a couple years of college to make that shift, we'll help you out. That's not what this is, right? Like, for example, when you see ICE dragging, it's one thing to say, oh, we're going to have, we don't want illegal people here. If you're not authorized to work, you're going to be deported. Well, that's the law. So that's fine. But, it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to enforce the law that we haven't been enforcing. It's another thing to say, we're going to dress up as goons and drive around in neighborhoods and drag women away from their screaming babies and throw them into a van and beat them up. We're gonna make fun of them while we're doing so, and we're gonna have like the Secretary of Homeland Security pose in front of a cage of grown men stripped down to their underwear, totally devoid of dignity, violating what, if they were prisoners of war, she would be violating the Geneva Conventions, which prohibit the photography and dehumanization and humiliation of prisoners. In other words, Guantanamo detainees are treated better under international law than she was treating these people, or picking people up. And Obama did this too, send them to countries they've never lived in and have nothing to do with. And you're not choosing France. You're choosing a war zone like South Sudan, where people have never been, and they're likely to be killed because, it's an active war zone. I mean, that's cruelty. It's the gleeful,
right.
It's bullying. It's mean.
Yes.
It's fucked up. It's not just harsh. It's cruel. It's vicious.
Well, and I think, when you gleefully talk about, alligator Alcatraz,
and they put up a sign on the highway that says like an exit, alligator Alcatraz. And people are stopping and taking selfies in front of the sign. That's fucked up.
That is fucked up. And so, and I asked you this morning, I've been wrestling with this. Can we come back from this level of politics? Now, J.D. Vance, the current vice president, seems to me to be, what's the word I'm looking for, Ted? A prick. And really took gleeful. When the confrontation between Trump and Zelensky in the Oval Office, it was J.D. Vance. You're not even grateful. You're not even grateful. You're not even grateful. You're not even saying thank you. You're not going to say thank you. You got to say thank you. Say thank you to him. In addition, during the State of the Union address,
I thought Vance had a point there. I mean, Zelensky's been. I mean,
wasn't the time to make it, and it wasn't the way to make it.
It was humiliating. On the other hand, maybe a guy who doesn't wear proper clothes to the White House doesn't deserve any respect because he's not showing any respect.
Well, you wouldn't say that about if Fidel Castro had shown up in his fatigues and his cigar. You would have been fine with that.
I'm not sure.
You would. Sure, you would. But do you remember when they threw out the congressman during the State of the Union address? He was yelling at Trump, and the speaker says, Sergeant Arms, would you please remove that? And Vance is behind him. I'll do it. Get him out of here. Get him the heck out of here. It was just like, no, seriously, watch this guy. It's like he's annoying. He's like the little guy who kind of hired the big guy to be his
he's kind of like the bully. He's kind of like the bully's friend, right? Like
the
bully always has an enabler.
Yeah, this is him. So
like in The Simpsons, right? There's like Nelson who's like, ha, ha! And then there's the other bully guy with the skull and crossbones guy.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what happens with this love? The cruelty seems to be a political movement. I mean, it seems to be, like you said, where I'm going to stand in front of, I'm going to have my picture taken in front of incarcerated people whose crime was to come to this country, and they were here illegally. Okay, fair enough, possibly.
Yeah.
But you still treat people humanely. I mean,
But also that's the thing too, right? Like, if you're just like, it's one thing to say, it's all about like, a lot of Republicans who support Trump are saying all that ICE is doing is enforcing the law. Okay, that's sophistry. I mean, because how you enforce the law is all the difference between a civilized country and an uncivilized country. And so, it's like if a cop pulls you over going 56 and a 55 and shoots you to death, well, he's enforcing the law. That's for sure. He's over enforcing the law. And like the point is, and he's an asshole. And so, like, to say the least, and a murderer. Well, here it's like, if you just say, we're going to deport you, let's just say we said we're going to deport 10 million illegal immigrants, but we're going to contact them. We're going to give them a year notice. We're going to give them each $5,000, $10,000 to get resettled. We're going to like help them transition back to their home country. We'll liaise with their home government. We'll say to make it a smooth process. We put them on passenger jets, like properly, not like cattle cars. We don't detain them in prison camps. If you're worried that they're going to run off, maybe slap a tracking bracelet on their feet or something. But the point is, like, you're going to go, but we're not going to be mean about it, but you got to go. And it's like, so it's like that. That's not really cruel. That's harsh. It's not cruel. And like,
okay,
I think,
fair enough.
And I think that's the difference here. You don't have to be cruel. You don't have to put people in detention camps. You don't have to deprive them of access to counsel. You don't have to make fun of them on social media and go on, give political rallies, dehumanize them. That's what this is about, right? And it's like, and the thing is, I know it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. When you behave like that, and I think this is the point you're saying, right? Is that like it degrades you as an individual and as a society to behave that way. You become less human.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it becomes less of a culture. It becomes less of, we've worked so hard at defining the other that once you get to that point, I don't know that you come back to. That's what I mean, is that can we come back to the e pluribus unum? We, out of many one, we're going to have arguments like you and I disagree on stuff. Okay. Yeah. How do we get from point A to point B? But we all can agree that we want to get to point B. It's just, how do you get there?
Well, I mean, I don't think we can. I don't think we always agree that we want to get to point B. I think a lot of people don't think there should be deportations at all, for example. You know what I mean? But but I do think it's like how you do things matters. I mean, honestly, let's look at this. I'm always criticizing the right, but let's look at the left side of things, right? I mean, how you argue for trans rights matters. And if you just say like, if you tell people like, if you don't like the idea of like a born male to female transitioned person on the girls' swim team and using the girls' locker room, you're a fucking bigot, you're transphobic, you're an asshole, fuck you, shut the fuck up. You can do it that way, which is what my side has been doing. It's not effective, and it just pisses everyone off. I mean, and if you were more, you could still get there the same way and say, look, we really believe this is the right path, but we understand your concerns, and you're bringing up some valid concerns about, like, the disadvantage to girls who are not able to win anymore. It's just the fact that like having a person with a penis walking around the locker room might be a little upsetting. Like, it's not like people who worry about those things are not stupid or crazy, and it's like to act like they are is like, okay, well, you're just not going to connect with them. So you can still have your point of view, and like we might not all be on the same let's get to point B thing, but you can have respect for an opposing point of view and even try to accommodate it, right? Like, well, maybe, for example, in the case of the trans thing, maybe we could have separate bathrooms, for example, for those people. Or maybe we can say there's going to be a separate stall within the girls' room or something, but there's like no conversation going on.
No, it's just screaming and defining and putting the other person in a silo. You talk about cruelty, and we touched on Doge, looking at, and I'm trying not to be cruel, but I think I was, Ted. It's interesting, but I'm thinking about the floods in Texas today and how, again, MAGA, an area that voted overwhelmingly, like 70% for Trump, it's going, how could this have happened? How could this have happened? Well, gee whiz, your minions went out and fired the people in mass whose job it was to find this, and the early warning guy was caught up in your MAGA mass of layoffs, and hence you didn't have the information you needed, the information that we took for granted over the last 20 years from the national weather outlets, then this happens. So, I can't even imagine the horror of those that family sending kids to camp and then this happening, but this was preventable. This was preventable. This was something, there was a mechanism in place. It reminds me a little bit of when COVID started to spike. The Trump administration had gotten rid of the protocols begun in the Bush administration, by the way, for looking at, we were due for a pandemic, and they were setting up protocols and all that stuff. And the Trump administration got rid of it. And now we're going, how could this have happened? COVID would have happened anyway. Was it preventable? Could the numbers have been diminished? I think somewhat, but maybe not to a significant degree.
Oh, I don't know. If we were going to do masking, I mean, you and I talked about this. I don't understand. And I mean, George W. Bush he had gotten convened during his presidency a pandemic response team to come up with a plan. It's a great plan. I wish someone had read it after Bush left. Really one of Bush's one of his accomplishments that nobody talks about. And I don't understand if they had followed his plan. As soon as the pandemic started, N95 masks would have started showing up with like civil defense logos at everyone's doors. Instead of us having to source our own masks, like sewing them, grabbing grandma, sewing them,
were totally. And we knew, Ted, we knew that they were ineffective. We knew that they were ineffective.
They had to be.
Becoming infected. They're very effective, even the grandma sewn ones, if you are infected yourself, from preventing you from spreading it. Mm-hmm. Because we discovered that it was spread through aerosol.
No, it's true. Yeah. But like, Scott, let's talk about the specifics, right? Like, what could have been done differently here? I mean, so the Guadalupe River there in Texas Hill Country, is known as Flash Flood Alley to the locals. I'm not going to comment on why that might be. But it happened last time in 2015, something very similar. So it's not unheard of. The local county there, Kerr County, has an annual budget of about $67 million. They had the ability it was proposed to drop $1 million 1 year on a early warning system. What that would have entailed is, as soon as sensors are triggered, everyone's smartphone would immediately go off and say, "Warning, flood coming your way, get the fuck out of the way." And there would have been sirens. People would have been trained, emergency response responders, the fire department and the police departments, all the local units would have all been trained how to respond and how to deal with this and clear the roads, close the highways, etc. $1 million, right, on a $67 million budget. They chose not to do that. Apparently there was no support from the taxpayers to do it. Now, I guess to their defense, it's probably a pretty poor county, I'm guessing, there in the middle. Texas Hill Country is famously poor. So they probably were like, we don't really want to raise taxes. We can't afford to raise taxes. I get it. But to me, I look at, so DOJ got rid of the National Weather Service guys who are the people who call local law enforcement in these situations. They're gone. So there was no one to do it that way. DOJ got rid of a lot of other people who in the Interior Department who might have been able to handle this, or FEMA, also gone. Meanwhile, we're sending money to Israel, Ukraine, all over the world, $1 trillion a year on the military. $1 million is a drop in the bucket here. I mean, even if you're like from looking at this from a purely rationalist Ayn Rand perspective, that $1 million would save the lives of maybe 100 or 200 people, all of whom pay taxes and are now dead and will never pay any taxes to Kerr County, right?
No, you're right. And that's where the Ayn Rand, if don't spend money unless there's a personal interest involved, is absurd. There is a personal interest here, and I'm not.
The lives of Texans matter.
I'm not such a libertarian to think that government has no function anywhere ever. You're insane if you think that. That's just not practical. So getting back to the floods, getting back to the cruelty, walking back to the America Party, Ted, I guess we should wrap things up. Can you walk cruelty back? Cruelty as a political tool, it's been very effective. It's gotten a bunch of people, Marjorie Taylor Greene all the way up to, name Tommy Tuberville. The fact that it works, will it continue to work? Can it continue to work? I guess, should it? I guess.
It does work. And the question is there ever any accountability? Not in a society that is mean. And fundamentally, American society, we're mean people. We have a mean streak. We don't really, we laugh at like things that are really ugly and cruel, in movies, for example. And it's part of our culture. I think it's part of Anglo-Saxon culture. I think it's our Old West rugged individualistic mentality. I think we're not a very Christian people. And I think it's really sad. I think, from day one, right? Like kids bully each other in school. The parents laugh it off. We've gotten better about it, but ultimately it's not going to work. It's only going to stop working if voters start rejecting these kinds of people and start embracing people who are kinder. Now, whatever you think of his politics, Bernie Sanders is an example of a person who doesn't have a mean streak. He never says anything mean. He doesn't have a mean temperament. He's not intemperate. He is, you know what I mean? Like
angry.
Okay. Yes, I'm angry. I'm angry that 70 people in Texas, including some beautiful children, died for no reason. I'm angry. Does that make me mean? No. I would say that the people, that's righteous anger deployed against the cruelty and stupidity and cheapness of policymakers who could have saved some of these lives, right? Not all of them, but if you could have saved one person, it's worth spending $1 million, right? And we didn't do that. So, yeah, Bernie Sanders might be shrill sometimes, and he might be angry, but he's not mean. And, Elizabeth Warren's not mean. Hillary Clinton is mean. I mean, when she made fun of Gaddafi, we saw, he died. I mean,
and your
she's
little
watching
dog
a man
too.
who's just had a bayonet shoved up his anus on television. Now, the thing is, he might have deserved it, maybe not. But the point is, you just watched a human being die in a horrible way. That's mean.
Agreed. Okay. So,
all right.
But we're not.
No,
we're good.
Here on the DMZ America podcast, we are kind all the time. I don't think I have a mean streak. I mean, I certainly can be.
Oh, there's people.
Have a sharp edge.
Yes, there are some people, I think specific people in our lives who we would not be sad if bad things happen to.
No, that's true. That's true. And, but again, let's say, theoretically speaking, a flamethrower drone were to
always
be
comes down to that,
deployed
man. Always.
Accidentally, let's say, in the service of incinerating and vaporizing the spot where a certain former newspaper publisher might be walking down the street near La Brea tar pits, let's just say. If that were to happen.
Totally random.
Now, would I jump up and down laughing and opening champagne? Yes, I would. But would I do it on television? No, I wouldn't. And that's the difference.
Keep your cruelty private. If we
right.
give you any message at all today, kids.
That's right. That's what Jesus wanted.
That's what he said. And
Jesus got angry. He was pissed off at the money changers.
He was pissed off at his disciples. I love that part of the gospel where he pretty much goes, when he does another miracle and they go, "Wow, you can do that?" He goes, "Are you kidding me? Have none of you been listening? You idiots. I said I could do this. How do you not? What words? I can't use smaller words."
Well, he got pissed off at his disciple too. Like, dude, is that really you? Are you really bad? Can I put my hand in? Like, okay, go ahead. Stick your fucking finger in my chest, you asshole.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's you. It's like,
we may be paraphrasing.
Little faith, fucker, asshole.
We may be
Dick.
Paraphrasing. Just unfair.
No, Jesus definitely. No, he was spicy.
Yeah, but he didn't like revel in his
But he
enemies.
wasn't mean.
Yeah.
Okay, that's true. All right,
okay.
So we will let that go. And thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be back when we're back, probably later this week, I imagine, or over the weekend or something like that. Thanks so much for joining us. DMZ America Podcast. Now I think we're going to go to the singing stylings of Scott Stantis.
I don't have a song teed up. Ted, help me
to emerge. Da, 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 da. Here we go.
Now you got that song in my head, and it will be there for the rest of the day. Thank you, Ted Rall. Long and lean and tan and handsome, the girl from Ipanema is something. I can't remember the rest of the words. And she walks by, all the guys go, "Oh."